girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And real quick housekeeping note, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple, Google, whatever podcast platform you utilize, please hit that follow and subscribe button so we can continue to bring you conversations like the one I'm bringing you today. We're talking with Ben, way down under, from the band Elm Street. What's going on, Ben?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's crazy that it's your evening. Is that right?
Yeah. It's 6 p.m. Here in Cleveland, Ohio, by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Awesome. Well, it's 9 a.m. here in 9 a.m. on a Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Which is crazy. But
Yeah.
Nice. We played in Cleveland back in 2018 at the
Agora. Oh yeah, the Agora.
Cool. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, the World Famous Agora. Yeah. Oh yeah, ton of musical history there. Did you guys get to? Who were you on that tour with?
We were on tour with Udo Dirkschneider from Accept.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was cool, because we grew up listening to his music. We grew up watching, concerts at the Agora, and you never actually think you're going to play at these iconic places. And that's one of the best stages I've ever stepped foot on. It sort of still has that old school feel, even the wooden floors on the stage. It's just crazy. So much history there.
Yeah. Well, my buddy Chris Z will be happy to hear that. He's the one that owns it right now.
Nice.
But yeah, I'll make sure I pass this interview along, man. Big shout out to the Cleveland Agora and all that history.
For sure.
When you guys were in town, did you get a chance to check out the Rock Hall, or you didn't have a lot of time?
No, we didn't have much time, and that's the thing about touring for us, especially, that you go from place to place, and it's just a quick in and out. All you really see is a venue. And you're either waiting around for a sound check, waiting to play, or ready to go onto the bus or your transport to the next city. So, yeah, we've been to so many places around the States, around Europe, but rarely do we ever get to experience what those cities have to offer. And I've heard, just from the drive-through, Cleveland was awesome. And I've heard that Hall of Fame, it's one of a kind. So definitely want to get back there and experience it all.
Yeah, hopefully you guys get that opportunity. That'd be great. So like usually when I have people on for the first time, I like to get a quick little background. So do you remember originally what did you want to be when you grew up?
A lot of things, but heavy metal quickly was in that picture. To be a musician or to somehow be involved with music, because for us, this band, a bit of background, we got together in 2003 from memory. So we were 14 years old, and there was 3 of us that are still in that band and that created Elm Street just out of the love of heavy metal. Neither of us knew how to play an instrument. All we knew was that we would watch Iron Maiden, Rock in Rio. We would watch Metallica cutting stunts on VHS back in those days, and we would just literally CD trade and just loved heavy metal and thought, yeah, we want to do that. We just want to be on stage and just playing that type of music. So, yeah, we quickly wanted to be musicians, and still to this day, I'm in my 30s now, and looking back to that, we were in high school just as 14-year-olds, just playing the music that we loved. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. So then when did it go from like something that you wanted to do to actually picking up instruments and doing it?
when we quickly made the band, we actually assigned each other what we wanted to do. So the guitarist said, "Yeah, I'll play guitar," and then I would play guitar. The drummer would play the drums, and no one wanted to sing. Because it was that thing where it's no one has a gifted talent straight away, and we're like, oh, it's going to be a bit uncomfortable. So I just put my hand up and said, I'll just learn how to sing. And for the first, I'd say 10 to 15 years, I was pretty crap at singing. And probably still to this day a little bit rusty, but yeah. So we quickly just assigned that, and we signed up for like a school talent show the following year. And we said, all right, let's just focus. Let's just learn one song, and let's just nail that song, and we'll play it at the school talent show and see how it goes. And that song was "For Whom the Bell Tolls" by Metallica.
Nice.
And we just
nice.
that's the only song that we knew. We just rehearsed that constantly, and then from then we just didn't stop.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then, you had mentioned about like the influences like Iron Maiden and Metallica and stuff, and watching the VHS tapes. But what was, as you guys started getting going there in Australia, what was your like local music scene like?
It was tough because we were underage at that point. To get into a gig here, similar to the States, you have to be over 18. So bars wouldn't host us as being minors. So we would start playing shows as 16, 17-year-olds, but our parents would have to take us to these gigs, and we were playing with people that were in their 20s and 30s, and then these kids would come along with their parents, and we'd be playing at midnight, and it was just a strange experience, but it's something that I would never take back. So it was good to be part of that local scene at that point, and power metal was a big one at that point. We had a lot of big power metal bands that were going overseas and touring with some bigger bands. And, that's when bands like Hammerfall, they were starting to get quite big, the early 2000s and things like that. So, yeah, it was good to be a part of that scene and see it evolve. And now, as we're in those ages, from the people that we look up to, we see the kids coming through. You see those younger bands, and we start to play with shows with them, and it's almost like looking in the mirror.
And did you have like some of those older bands kind of like take you under their wing and start kind of showing you the ropes or anything?
For sure. And I have to say, it was strange. Sometimes those older bands will say, "Oh, come to this house for the pre-party." Well, we didn't even know what a pre-party was at that point, and we'd go to their houses, and our parents would come along, and they'd sit in the corner. And looking back, I've got to thank our parents for even going through some of that stuff. I remember one gig; it started at midnight, and I think we were on at close to 3 a.m. And it was just like, geez, I can't believe we put them through that. But it's all for the love of metal. Metal isn't designed to be played at noon.
Well, shout out to your parents, man, for
that's it.
Being definitely, behind you guys.
They were
that's
troopers,
great.
That's for sure.
And then, so you guys are out playing now. Let's talk about like, Elm Street. Obviously, I have an idea of what inspired the name, but you care sharing the story?
Yeah, so we went through a few names in the beginning. I remember the first ever name was Heavy Metal Warriors, which wasn't original, but as kids, it's like, yeah, you can see that. But we quickly started to look into like the music business industry and see, okay, how can we market this band and still play the music that we love, and people just straight away know what style they're going to see. So we loved the 80s metal, and we loved the 80s horror movies, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, all those movies, all those slasher movies. So we thought, cool, Elm Street, straight away you're going to think, that's a metal band, and that's a band I'm going to listen to. So I think Dokken, Dream Warriors, that inspired it. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, and
Yeah.
since then, it's just stuck. And I think a lot of people start to recognize the band, and our style as soon as you read or hear that name.
Yeah, and then so you guys start making a name for yourself back there, and then when did it catch for you guys where that you were able to come tour the States?
2012. So we were in our early 20s at that point. We had signed with a label over in Germany, Massacre Records, who we're still with now to this day. And we just took the steps and said, cool, we're just going to move overseas. It's very expensive for us to travel over to Europe or over to the States and, get a consistency of shows. So we made the move over to London. As Australians, you can get a working visa in the UK. Which is a plus. So we moved over to London and we just played as many shows as we could in Europe, in the UK, and that's where it started to really gain a bit of a following. And we started to figure out this is what touring is like, this is what the international market is like. And I'm glad, that was a great experience. Tough. Our first time living overseas, our first time traveling away from Australia, being overseas. So that's when it really started to kick off.
And how old were you guys around that time?
21, 22.
Wow.
So
yeah, what an experience. And then now where you reside now? Then you're back in Australia then, right?
Yeah, back in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, which is where we all grew up, where all our family and friends are, and it's definitely one of the best cities in the world, I think. Have you ever been to Australia?
No, it's definitely on my bucket list. I was in the Navy too, but unfortunately I was East Coast, so I didn't make it over to the Westpac. I wish I did. It's still on my list though to make it out there sometime.
Yeah, it's a great place.
I haven't seen an ugly Australian woman, so I don't know what you guys are doing over there, but keep it up.
That's always a plus. But it's just it's just a great place to be. Obviously, the downside is we're so far away and sometimes disconnected from the rest of the world, which can be good as well. But social media, the internet has made it a lot easier. Especially for a band. When we first started, you couldn't really stream, or it was rare to be on a streaming platform like Spotify or YouTube. Those were those early iterations. So we were still going to our local CD shop and pre-ordering an album that was coming out in Europe or the States, and 2 months later we would get the release.
Gotcha, yeah.
So now it's so accessible to the rest of the world.
And then around, like you said, 2018, you were here and you played the Agora and stuff. How many times have you been over to the States or been outside Australia touring?
Over to the States twice. So we did a run in 2015 with Skullfist and Night Demon, who are sort of classic heavy metal bands, which was cool. I had been to the States personally a few times. My family's from Latin America, so as young kids, we would go over for family holidays to LA and those sort of places, which I just fell in love with. I love the States. I could go there so many times and just have the best time. So we've been over twice with the band. Which was awesome. And that last run with Udo Dirkschneider, we started in New York and we made a full circle, finished off in Philadelphia, but went through to Canada, all of the coasts, which was good, a cool experience. Never driven in snow before, so it was challenging at times, and we're driving ourselves the majority of the time. But
wow,
so and aside from that, some tours over in Europe as well, which seems to be for us, for the band, with our record label being in Germany, some of the strongest markets for us.
Yeah, gotcha. And then so you guys did that tour 2018, and then what were you like? What did you have like going on when the world shut down? In 2020.
Yeah, well, we were about to record an album in 2020. So we were ready to record this next album that we are about to release. And it was tough because we were stuck in a city in Melbourne, which was the longest city in the world in lockdown. Which
True,
is
yeah.
which is crazy to think. I mean, we couldn't go outside of 5 kilometer radius at times, and it was almost 2 years that we were in lockdown, where studios were shut. For us, it wasn't too bad because we got to connect with people, family, friends that we probably neglected for quite a bit of time because we were so focused on the band. But
Yeah.
it also worked in our favor because we're perfectionists in music, in our music and everything that we release. So we actually got to really work on all the material, do a bit of pre-production, which we would never have had a chance to do in the past, and really refine the music. And have fun recording it. So we even built our own little recording studio where we got to do quite a bit of stuff on our own outside of the lockdowns in the studios. So yeah, we just had time to really refine the next release, which I think shows, and we can really step back and be proud of that.
Yeah, and I like hearing like the positive, flipping it to the positive. I mean, I experienced kind of like a similar thing. I'm a father of 2 daughters, and they're kind of grown and they're out with their friends all the time. So we're just kind of roommates passing through, half the time. And then it's like they had to spend time with me again, and we got to rekindle that, that relationship and our strengthen that, during that time. But I mean, I know we didn't have it near as bad as you guys. I mean, that was like a real nightmare for Elm Street out there. From what I've seen, and because of the internet, we have access to things we might not have witnessed before. And I've talked to other people about just how Orwellian it got out there, man, how tough it was during that time. And glad you guys are like on the other side of it now,
Oh, of course. It's almost like a thing of the past. It's like it never actually happened. But, we lived life so quickly, all of us. It was just almost on autopilot that we got to actually pause for a second, sit back and look at things and be present in the moment. So that was fun. And like your t-shirt there, I watched a lot of wrestling during my downtime. I'm a big old school wrestling fan. So I would put on the old WCWs or those invasion years of WWF and just sat back and enjoyed life a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. I did quite a bit of that myself. I was like, that's some of the stuff that helped keep me sane, just getting into my, those escapes. That's my male soap opera. So yeah, I'm with you on that, man. But yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm glad you guys are on the other side of it now, but, hopefully people don't forget, and, like we as a world need to kind of like just remember, where's the line, and what are we going to allow to happen as a people? It's crazy, man. It's just crazy times, and music's definitely good therapy, a good escape for a lot of us. So you guys play a huge role in helping people, deal with their stuff. For me, my therapy is doing this podcast and getting to talk to other people, and
that's
getting
great.
people's stories out there and stuff.
That's it. And a lot of good music came out of that period. It was so inspired, and music is so emotional. So I'm hearing releases now that you can tell the lyrical themes were challenges or struggling or people looking within, and it's great.
Yeah, I just had Tommy Victor on the show from Prong and Danzig, and his new album is dropping this. I think it just dropped, and it's totally all about like just letting go about all the stuff that we've been going through, and just you could tell that there's that he was definitely inspired to kind of like wake people up and say, hey, how much are we going to take, and let's stay vigilant. We're one human population that we got to watch each other's back.
That's right. That's what it's all about.
And then like let's talk a little bit about so for speaking of your guys' release now, October 27th,
Yep.
it's going to drop. The Great Tribulation comes out on Massacre Records. You say that's been your guys' home for, several years now.
Yeah.
What is, what is your message that you're getting out with the Great Tribulation and that you want fans to experience and hear?
Yeah, well, I think this is our most personal album. I think each of our releases captures the moment in time of where the band is and also where we are personally, because at the end of the day, we're friends before we're in a band. It's really a friendship thing. So, the first album was written when we were 14, 16 years old. It was about young kids just loving heavy metal, going out with our denim vests and going to concerts and just causing a mess. The second album, we came with some challenges, touring, finding out things about the music industry, which became challenging. Now, similar to the world when it shut down, it was just a lot serious for us, and a lot of things outside of the band impacted us. So the message is that it can be a challenging time, but we have each other, and there's also themes in there which we just touch on, which could be about media, about war, and also just having a good time. Like you said, bonding together with the people around you and just moving forward, and also just embracing life a little bit. So I read a review that came out of the Netherlands this morning, which, I never really take too much, because at the end of the day, the way people listen to our music is always subjective. It's going to mean something to everybody and in their own different way. But I read that from what they gathered, it was our darkest album, which I can gauge from the themes, and the sound. It's a bit heavier, still has that classical metal element, but the songs, can get long, and they've got a lot of emotion in them. So that was cool to hear.
Well, it was probably, like you said, 2 years, you guys were dealing with all that uncertainty if you're ever going to be able to do what you love again. So yeah, it probably was very dark, but it was also probably your way of processing that kind of trauma, or, kind of therapy for yourself, just to pen to paper and get it out and scream it,
That's it. And the cool thing is that we get to leave that behind for ourselves. It's almost like leaving behind a diary, because we're never going to write the same album again, or we're never going to sound exactly like that again. So we're leaving behind a memory that we can pick up in 10 to 15, 20 years and go, cool, that's where we were at that point,
Yeah.
And it's like looking back at a memory.
But like, how many, people listening to it will like relate, like, man, that's how I felt, and how it might help them, see from a different perspective or process, like, oh, that's why I've been feeling like this, So
That's right. And it's cool that we get to connect. And, one of our most popular songs is one that we thought would never really be as popular, which is called Metal is the Way. And that was actually the first ever song we wrote as kids. And, that was the last track on our debut album. We just didn't think it was going to blow up. It was featured in a movie called Deathgasm, which was directed by a New Zealand guy, and that became a cult metal movie, out there. So it got quite popular, and people still relate to it to this day. And some of the lyrics are like, it sounds like it was written by a 14-year-old, that's just raising that metal fist. And it's just cool that can mean something to somebody.
Yeah, I gotta check that out, because I've heard of that movie. A lot of friends in the industry have talked about it, so I'm gonna have to check that out. And like, I love hearing metal is the way, through a 14-year-old perspective, But it's awesome, because it's like, it is, it's the way that you guys chose, and it's formed you to the men you are today. Played a big role.
For sure.
In that, so.
For sure. And
awesome.
definitely check it out. If you like metal, if you like horror, it's just the movie. It's like those 80s movies that they released, Trick or Treat, with Gene Simmons, all those sort of horror movies. It takes on
Yeah.
those cult metal horror movies, and it was a huge success. I don't think anybody expected it to be such a cult movie. So they're making part 2 now, which is going to be cool as well.
Yeah, hopefully you guys get a track on that one too.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's funny too because I was just at like a horror convention type thing that my friend put together here in the Cleveland area, and Mark Price from the movie Trick or Treat, and they actually did a screening of the movie Trick or Treat, and Mark Price, who was like Skippy in Family Ties, and in that movie was there, and he did a Q&A and everything, and he did some stand up, so I got to meet him. It was really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And then back on your guys' album, one of the singles, which seems very like a very timely song to current events in the world, "The Price of War." I just was watching the video, and well, for one, I have to say, man, your drummer's got a sick kit. I love it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about
cool.
like the inspiration for that track, because I mean this was written, before what's happening right now, I'm sure.
Of course. And I think it's always been that in the back of our minds, and just seeing, the innocence of what's impacted by war. And sometimes it's not always questioned or out there in the media of that. And, yourself being in the Navy before and experiencing things, I'm sure you have your own personal connection to it. But it was really inspired by that, and especially events, while we were still in somewhat of a lockdown, with the war over in the Ukraine and things like that, and just seeing the price that is impacted, by somebody's greed or somebody's goal to reach something, and the innocent life that's impacted by that.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, being, retired military, and having my own personal experience, and being a father, I mean, I was over in the Middle East, and I would see some of the kids outside playing over there. And and at the time my daughters were young back home, and I would have those thoughts like, there's no reason why my daughters can't play with these kids. It's like these kids have nothing to do with any of this stuff. And then it made me like internalize a lot of like, what are we really doing? And so now when I look at the current situation and the most recent stuff with Ukraine too, I'm just like, I'm not throwing up these flags and supporting war. I mean, it's just, I can't. It's always the innocents that pay. It's always the kids. It's always the women, the children, the civilians. They have nothing to do with anything. They're just wanting to live their lives.
Yeah,
and,
that's it.
And so I'm not going to throw up I'm not going to pick a team anymore.
That's it. And who are we to take away their life? And like you said, their freedom to just live their life in the best place and be safe in doing so. And we're lucky, you and I, that we live in places like we do, where we can walk the streets and go to the shop and get a coffee. Without having to deal with some of this stuff that other countries deal with, which makes us feel lucky, but also we have a bit of compassion for people overseas. So I think that's what really inspired the front cover of our new album, The Great Tribulation, where you see destruction and you see a place that was war ridden, and then it's just a child there holding a toy tank. And that's where it's like, oh, he just wanted to play. And here comes someone destroying his whole family and his place.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And then, so I know we're like kind of running short on time, but for any audience members that are new to hearing about you guys and want to support the new album when it comes out and just want to know more about Elm Street, where would you send them?
Definitely our social media pages. It's all Metal Elm Street We can find us on YouTube as well, YouTube channel Metal Elm Street. Have a bunch of video clips from all around the year. So that's the best way for us to connect with people worldwide and for us just to share our own personal journey. Now, we're really bumping up the content on social media, which is good. And yeah, that's the best way to find us. And hopefully we're making our way over to the States, to Europe, worldwide very soon.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I mean, with the release of this new album, has there been any talk of, tour support?
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. So Europe is probably the first place where we'll tackle, and then the States will be next. So, like I said, personally, we love the States in terms of just, the coolness about it. You get to go on days off is when you get to enjoy some cities, and we've been to sports events. We've seen Cleveland play basketball at Madison Square Garden against New York just on a day off, which is
nice.
yeah, which is cool. So all that sort of just embracing the culture. So definitely getting over to the States as soon as possible.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, I want to, if you got a little bit more time, I want to ask you a couple of the questions I normally ask guests that I have on.
For sure.
What was the last book that you've read?
The last book that I read, geez, it would have been a biography. So Michael Sweet from the band Striper, an old Christian 80s band. That was the last book that I read. I love reading biographies, from artists and things like that, and just hearing their stories. So that would have been the last one, and highly recommend.
Nice. Yeah, that's another influential band.
For sure.
And then, talking about like a lot of things, you've learned along the way, as starting in music at 14 years old and everything. But, what classes do you feel should be mandatory for kids before graduating high school today?
Music. I think, for us, that's where we're really connected. And even though I still have some fond memories, because in Australia here, you take on music as a class, as an elective, as an option, whether you wanted to do that. But even when we didn't know instruments, you never had a fight in a music class. You're always connected with everyone around you, and that's some of the best memories that I have. So, I mean, on top of English, obviously, music, definitely one of those.
Nice. And then, who are three people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Dee Snider, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, always looked up to him. Bruce Dickinson, Iron Maiden, I would say, just staying on that music theme. Some of those wrestlers from the 80s, man. I would say the Ultimate Warrior, one of those, where you still watch those. Bret Hart, you watch some of those documentaries, and I think those are some of the biggest influences, I think, in my life, for sure.
Nice. You jumped into my next question, but I mean, we got to give shout outs again to mom and dad,
of course. Always.
All they did going to those pre-parties and experiencing that with you guys.
Yeah. They're mandatory inspirations.
Yeah. But so because you brought it up, and I haven't got to ask this question in a while, but who would you say was your favorite wrestler of all time?
We were talking about this the other day. For me personally, Stone Cold. Steve Austin. Yeah,
nice.
And you still get goosebumps when you hear that glass break at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think by far one of the best.
I got to. Oh no, go ahead.
Oh no, please go ahead.
I got to, speaking of Madison Square Garden, when I was out there for some military training, and this was still fairly close after 9/11, where it's like we go anywhere in uniform, and it's like the city of New York, like open arms and stuff. So we got to go to Madison Square Garden to watch WWE at the time doing a show, and this is Stone Cold was there, and dude, being inside Madison Square Garden when that glass broke, it was just freaking phenomenal, man.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Those days, you just cannot beat that Attitude Era. When you had the WWF with that sort of on edge side, and then you had WCW as well with Monday Night Nitro. That era
Yeah.
was just the best time, and it was the best time growing up as well as a kid.
Yeah, we weren't so soft back then, you know. A lot of
No,
things they could get away with, you know. It's like
no,
I miss
no.
that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome, and it was some of the first times as well when that side of wrestling was touring Australia as well, and they would play arenas here, and it would just be sold out, and it's just such a great atmosphere.
Yeah, I tell you what, too. Yeah, you know, speaking of, because I still, you know, like I'm still a fan. I still watch today,
Yeah,
and once again, I got to thank Australia for some of its recent contributions. I tell my daughters every time Rhea Ripley comes out, I go, "There's your future stepmom," even though even though I'm old enough to be her dad, you know. So I got to probably check myself, but
yeah,
yeah.
the Australian talent is great. It wasn't back in the day; they didn't really get many opportunities, but now it's really starting to ramp up. And Nick, our bass player, was involved in the Australian industry for quite some years and knows some of those wrestlers that are now transitioning over to professional in WWE, which is great. It's great to see.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, yeah, and they do a lot with, you know, with metal bands and stuff too. So who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe you guys might get to write some intro music for one of them coming up sometime.
that's it. It's really a match made in heaven: wrestling, metal, and horror. You know, you just those top three.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully some of them see this and you know, can make
For
something
sure.
happen for you guys. That'd be great.
For sure.
And then
For sure.
speaking of some childhood inspirations and stuff, what was your favorite toy as a child?
Stretch Armstrong.
I remember Stretch.
Yeah. I would take that Stretch Armstrong everywhere. It was cool.
Yeah, and then it's just like then as you got older and maybe a little twisted, you were like, what's inside him? What's making him stretch like this?
Yeah.
Beat the crap out of poor Stretch. You know?
That's it. I can't even remember what he was. Was he a soldier? Was he a superhero? I don't remember. But you would just like, yeah, you just stretch for hours.
And then you also get the what was it, the dragon type, his arch enemy or whatever.
Yeah, that's
And,
right.
like, beat the crap out of each other. But man, you got hit in the face with that, man. You left an egg on your head.
That's it. That's it. Different. This is a generation before iPhones and iPads and computers. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. Getting outdoors and using that imagination. They wonder why Hollywood's got to do all these reboots. It's like the kids that are writing stuff today don't have any imagination, man. They're just
That's it.
retreading everything.
That's right. That's right. So true.
And then are there any like causes or organizations that you support and encourage other people to check out?
Look, we try to give back as much as we can, you know, really giving back to artists. I think here in Australia as well, you know, we had during the COVID period, and also even now, we're still struggling getting people into shows, people into gigs. So there's a lot of local organizations and fundraisers to just support local artists. So yeah, you can do a quick Google search, and I think even international organizations have got into that. And the good thing is there's now government grants for international touring and to get us out there, because like we discussed, it's so expensive, you know, to fly over to the States or to fly to Europe or to even get international artists into our country here is quite heavy. So always trying to give back as much as we can and get music to the people as well.
Nice. And then what kind of goals do you guys have going forward now with you got the release coming out, and you know, what are you guys already looking towards the next one? Is some music coming? Are you guys already writing some new stuff, or just want to get out and perform this for everybody?
A bit of both. We're a bit more smarter with our time, you know, so we've already started working on the next album, which sort of takes on that inspiration from the last one, but also trying to create our own memories again and just write music organically. So yeah, definitely more shows getting out there. We had nearly 3 years where we didn't play consistent shows, so getting back overseas, hopefully getting on those big festival dates, because at the end of the day, we're metal fans, so we want to play music, but also spend hours watching the bands that influenced us and new music that's released to this day. So that's always cool.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been watching a lot of footage from this past weekend with Power Trip and
Yeah, it
all
looked amazing.
those festivals that have just happened, and I enjoy those myself. Sometimes I like to hit shows as much as I can, but I can when I hit those music festivals, it's like I get all my bands out of the way in one weekend, and then I can go be dad for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's the beauty of that. And I guess that generation is starting to run its time with those classic bands, Iron Maiden, AC/DC. We're probably going to start see the last tours. With
Yeah,
Kiss.
oh yeah.
Kiss just played their last ever Australian show last weekend, and you would think some of those other bands are starting to come up to that time. So we're just trying to enjoy it as much as we can.
Yeah, they're coming through Cleveland the end of this month, and I've been
awesome.
to a few of them, so I've already got a friend that's taking me to this one too. So
that's awesome.
One more. I mean, they were one of my gateway bands. Into the music industry as a kid.
For sure.
Got to see them out, and then I went and saw the Beach Boys, which
Wow.
I mean, they came through town, and I was like, I had the opportunity to see the Beach Boys or see Ice Nine Kills was in town, but I was like, you know what? I'll get another chance to see Ice Nine Kills. This could be it for the Beach Boys. So I went and I had a blast, man. They put on a great show. So
that's good. And
definitely trying to hit the ones that, like you said, I'm being cognizant of the ones that may not be around much longer.
That's it. And some of those bands or groups, they're starting to embrace the newer times, and their shows are just amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. The drummer for Beach Boys was sick, man.
That's it.
He put on a clinic, man. But yeah, like I said, your drummer's kit looks amazing too. So I hope to catch you guys in a live show next time you come through the area, man.
For sure. It's and he uses every little bit of it. He's inspired by those.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Nicky McBrains and Nick Menza from Megadeth and some of those ones. So you got to enjoy your craft as well.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I can hear it in your guys' songs. So, and it looked fun. Watched them in the videos that I saw.
For sure.
Man, Ben, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate having you on and talking with you a little bit. And I know we kind of already said, but for any people out there listening that want to support you guys and check you out one more time, where would you tell them to go?
Yeah, just all the social media platforms, Metal Elm Street, Spotify as well under Elm Street, and YouTube just to watch all the clips as well. So looking forward to getting the new album, The Great Tribulation, out there, and shout out to Massacre Records, and thanks for having me on. This is awesome, and I'll be tuning in a lot more frequently for sure.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate that, man. And then one last favor before I let you go then.
Yeah.
Do you mind cutting a promo ID for the show? Just introducing yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Hey, guys. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to today's Boondoggle. All the best from Australia, from Elm Street.
Awesome. Ben, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right. See ya.
Bye.